Now, I know there's some guys out there and some people who just will not entertain it because it's been involved in an accident previously. Even if Fiat came, picked this car up, rebuilt it, nut and bolt, and brought it back, they still wouldn't have it even for a £5. Hi guys, Lee here, welcome back to the channel, and you join me today as we're going to have a look at another one of my purchases. Now this time it's the little Fiat 500 we bought, the 1.2 lounge model we bought from Aston barclay. We bought this a few weeks ago, and we bought this with a number of other cars. Now it's the turn of the little Fiat. Now the car's back here, we've had it picked up, and we're going to have a look round at it in a minute. Now the car we bought at auction, including all the fees, cost £1,334. Now for an 08 plate Fiat 500, as nice as this one, with around 60 odd thousand miles on it, I think it's got about 68,000 miles if I remember rightly, that's actually quite cheap. But there is a reason for that, because it is actually a previous damage repairable, so it's what we call a Cat N, or we used to call Cat D, which means it's had a very light damage in the past and at some point it's been repaired. Now obviously we'll check that out when it goes through the workshop, make sure there's no issues or faults there, but to be honest with you guys, it doesn't bother me too much. It's only a Cat N, which means only very light damage. The car's been through a number of MOTs since that anyway, so I'm not really too bothered about that, to be fair. And at the end of the day, the price reflects what you buy and what you sell it for. So obviously we've got it a little bit cheaper than we would do if it was HPI clear, and we'll get a bit less for it when we come to sell it. But I don't think we're going to struggle to sell this, guys, because it's such a nice looking car, nice colour, good spec, and with decent mileage as well. So the car is now here, we've had it picked up, it's now back at the workshop, so we're going to have a look round it, go for a test drive, get it in the workshop and see what we need to do to this little Fiat to turn it around and hopefully sell it on for a profit. So let's go and have a look at the Fiat. Okay guys, here we are, the little Fiat 500. Now, straight away, I think it needs saying, I think that is a nice looking little Fiat 500 for what it is. For an old Fiat 500, that's probably 08, it's probably the first ones that came out as well on an 08. Just think that's a nice colour. It's like a, I was going to say duckhead blue, but it's not quite. It's like it is a whitey blue. I can't really describe it. I'm not sure what the colour is. I'll have to have a look, see what the actual official manufacturer's colour is. But whatever it is, I like it. I think it just looks a nice little thing, and decent spec as well. We'll have a look round in a minute. So, I say we paid £1,334 for this little Fiat 500. It's a lounge model, it's the 1.2, and I think it has done 68,000 miles, so it's not too bad on that side either. So let's have a look round her. It wants a wash, because it's been back on the recovery truck and driving all the way back, and it's just covered in dirt, so I'm not sure you can quite pick that up on the camera. But nothing a good valet wouldn't sort out. Very straight on the front end, no damage at all there, we've got no marks or scrapes. Tyre wise, we've got a cheapy budget tyre, pretty much brand new on there, good 6-7mm on it, 185 55 15s all round. Nice touch the chrome mirrors, door straight, like I said, it's just dirty, but the actual paint works nice and straight. We've got into the quarter again, nice and straight, no accident damage we can see there or anything like that. We're not sure where this has been damaged previously, we haven't got a clue, but if it has, it seems to have been repaired well from what I've seen of it, walking around it before. Move on to the back, another budget tyre on the back, an Arrow Speed. They're sold by Quick Fit, usually Arrow Speeds, not very good budget tyre, but needless to say, the tyre is actually in fair condition, it's okay, it's got about 6mm on it. A few little marks there been touched in. You know, it's an old car, what do you expect? It's over 14 years of age. Again on the back, very straight and clean. We've got a little bit of starting to little crack perish, if you want to call it, on the lens on the back there. Really not going to start looking at doing stuff like that, guys, on this age of vehicle. It's not cracked or anything, it won't affect the MOT. The rest of the car is quite decent. Like I said, just a wash and a clean up, we'll get this chrome all nice and back up again. All well and good on the back end there, it's all good, no damage to report. Again onto the quarter on this side, just other than dirt, it's actually a really straight car. On the back end, other tyre, it's a bit worn, that's a Goodyear Efficiency Energy Grip, a little bit cracked and perish. We might see we've got a spare tyre for this we can throw on, if not maybe put a new one on it. We'll just have to check this tyre properly out, make sure those cracks aren't too deep or anything, because it'll fail an MOT if we've got any cord or ply showing. Straight on this quarter, straight on the door, all the chrome's in decent order. It's just a nice little smart car. Again on the front we've got a matching harmonic, which is an Anthony tyre on the front, just a cheap budget tyre. A nice presentable little Fiat 500. If you can see, guys, on top there we've got the panorama roof. That's all nice and good. It's not cracked or anything like that, because if that was damaged, that would be expensive to put right. We've only got one key, which is a shame, so we might look at getting another key for it. And it's also just a standard key. It's not central locking one, but obviously it would have had a flip key from new. So we might look to reinstate that. Let's see how the budget takes us, because I'd rather spend more money on the underneath than worrying about a key. That's the sort of last thing you were sort of worry about. But inside, wants a valet. It's a bit filthy, seats want a good shampooing, just horrible and dirty, but nothing a good valet wouldn't sort out. The interior itself actually is in good condition, other than it obviously wants to clean. Everything works. We've got all the seat bolsters, we can get into the back okay, with no issues there. We've got no rips or tears in the seats. Everything's there, all the headrests are there, belts are there, it's all as it should be. Let's jump inside. Nice and pleasant. Obviously you've got matching dashboard to the colour of the car, which is a nice touch. Mileage is 68,000 miles. Fire her up, a little 1.2 fire engine, Punto engine, or Fiat engine in general. It's been years and years and years this engine's been going around for. Radio's working, tuned in to Radio 1, so it's had a bit of youth in the car. Hold that down, does that go off? Yes, there we go. Right, we've got a warning light on there. We've got fuel light, obviously, but also I've noticed we've got a check warning light for the bulbs. Just come up, and we've got an airbag failure light as well. So we've got a problem with the airbag. So we'll have to scan that, see what's going on. It's probably something wrong with either usually the seat underneath. There's like the wires or the connections get a bit loose, and sometimes you have to fiddle about with them. Or maybe if it's a bit more serious, we could be looking at maybe taking this squib apart here where the airbag sits. Sometimes you get broken wires in there, can happen. So anyway, they're not too difficult to sort out. We can sort that out. It's not a problem. So we'll have a look and put that on our job list. And we've got a bulb out somewhere as well, but we'll find that when we go and check it through the workshop. We've got the city mode button you have on Fiat's. Is that all working? Yeah, look at that. Light as a feather. It's a nice touch. It's just a nice looking thing. Sounds well as it should. Little 1.2 fire engine, cracking little old school engine. The old blind there for the panorama roof. 5-speed manual. Got the old Windows Mobile USB port there. I suppose that was high tech when it come out, but nowadays we just settle for Bluetooth, please. Locking wheel nuts here as well. That's always handy to have. Lecky windows. We have got lecky windows. We've got alloys in this as well, and we've got aircon, so it's a nice packed little car, and with the panorama as well. So like I said, well spec'd. They're all working. There isn't really much to say about this really. It's a nice car, nice thing. There's not much really to do in here. All we've got to do is scan it, find out what's going on with that airbag light, and sort some bulbs out, and that's pretty much it so far. Let's have a look under the bonnet. There it is, guys, a little 1.2 Fiat Punto fire engine, or Fiat engine. Actually, this has been around since, I'd hazard a guess, since the 80s, because I remember these in the Fiat Uno. That's the first car that I remember that had these in. I sort of worked on back in the day when I first started out buying and selling, fixing cars up. But it's been in the Puntos, numerous Puntos and all sorts of Fiats. I don't want to say it's still in production, but if it isn't now in production, it was until very recently. It's had a really good lifespan, and it's just a good, reliable little solid engine. And a little quirk about it as well, Fiat, these little fire engines, why mechanics used to love them so much is that if they went wrong, i.e. the cam belt snap, that dreaded issue, if the cam belt ever snaps on your car, these used to have non-interference heads. So if the cam belt snapped, you just retimed it up with a new cam belt, fired it up, and off we go. It was a little cracking little engine for that. Not many manufacturers made non-interference heads, so most of the time if your cam belt snaps, it's good night Vienna. But not on a little Fiat engines. They were quite decent for that. Not much else to say underneath here really. The battery doesn't look, it's not new, but it's not old either. It's probably been changed in the last couple of years. There's not much else going on here, guys. It's pretty clean under here. It just wants a service and general bit of maintenance. Obviously we'll check all that over before we sell it. These don't give much jip, to be honest, these little Fiat engines. I've seen the odd one with an egg gasket issue, but it's usually when they've been abused. They're not sort of renowned for it. So yeah, just a general service and a tidy up. We'll check that out when we get it in the workshop. Okay, right, let's get the tray plates on it and let's go for a little drive in it, see how she is on the road, and then get it in the workshop and go from there. So let's go for a drive in the little 500. Right, got the tray plates on. Let's go for a drive in the little Fiat. Now, the little Fiat 500, it's fair to say, is predominantly bought by women. Now that doesn't mean that there isn't some men out there who might have one, but my experience of people who bring them to the garage for servicing, repairs, MOTs, and we've sold them to in the past, they are predominantly women who buy these cars. They are a very feminine car, let's put it that way, but I strangely like them. I don't know why. I think it's because of the retroness of the Fiat 500 from its old predecessor. I just think they're a nice looking little car. The Fiat 500 is also the Ford KA. I mean, the Ford KA is a Fiat 500, it's not the other way around, but yeah, but it just doesn't look as nice, the KA, and they don't sell as well. The Fiat 500s always sell really well. If you've got a woman or a young girl wanting to buy one, they usually want a 500, not a KA. The KA are usually a little bit cheaper to buy and to sell, to be honest. But yeah, I'll buy either of them, to be honest. It doesn't really bother me. I say they're made up of quite old school components on them. They've been making them now for a long time, so all the faults and stuff have been ironed out. Everyone's quite cheap to replace on them, and there isn't much that really goes wrong on them. Now, saying that, what is wrong with this one? Well, we know we've got warning lights to deal with, and I know straight away off the bat I can hear a problem with the at the back there. There's something going on. I can hear a knocking noise. I'm not sure if you can pick it up on the camera, but there is definitely something going along there, bouncing around over the sort of potholes and the bumps. Sounds like metal on metal, so maybe like a shocker maybe, or something like that. Or maybe the exhaust is clanging against the body, and there's a little bit of a vibration as well, like the exhaust is rattling. So we need to have a look at that, because there's something going on at the back there. Brakes wise, it seems okay. A little bit noisy, but they seem to be clearing up now I'm using them. So we'll have a look at them, just double check them anyway. But to be honest with you, they seem okay now. We've got no sort of, it's braking in a straight line. We haven't got any fluctuation or anything like that. Blimey, that sun's bright. Suspension wise, it seems quite solid. I've got no real knocks or bangs on the front end. It's all quite good. Just that noise at the back, really. That's all I can sort of say. That's all really I can sort of hear at the moment. It's driving reasonably well, pulling off nice. The old 1.2 Fiat Punto fire engine, driving well. To be honest with you, they don't really give many problems. These engines have been going around for ages and ages, like I said before. I mean, must be now coming up to 40 years they've been using these engines, and they're absolutely brilliant, cracking things. They're not the most powerful of engines, maybe not even the most economical, but Fiat have stuck with them because they are reliable and robust and probably very cheap to make. But they don't really cause many problems. We don't fix many of them. It's got a little 5-speed manual. It's all it needs, really. Are they quick or nippy? No. I mean, you compare this to something like a C1 or something. The C1 feels a lot more nippy, which is a bit lighter. You know, they drive, they're about the same performance maybe as a 1 litre Corsa, maybe. I think maybe a 1.2 Corsa is probably just a little bit more responsive than this. They are just a tiny bit sluggish if you were going to be a little bit critical of them, but to be honest with you, they're not meant for racing or rallying. If you want a fast one, go buy in a Bath. But as a little plodder around town that look nice, the part, I think they're a cracking little car, and they always sell well. So if you're thinking of buying a Fiat 500, what do you need to watch out for? What's the common things that goes wrong with them, and what goes wrong with them when it comes to MOT time? Well, what I picked up over the years, one of the obvious ones is door handles. Always check your door handles are actually, first of all, are actually there, because a lot of them come off in your hands and then people just discard them, and make sure obviously they're nice and secure, they're not breaking. They are quite flimsy, but they're really cheap to replace. So worst case scenario, if you have got one with a broken door handle, you can pick a door handle up, one of these off the internet brand new for about less than 20 quid. I would just buy one off the line. I wouldn't waste your time getting one from Fiat. They'll cost you an absolute fortune, and they just break all the same anyway, so you might as well just buy one offline that will last a few more years and it'll break again. Other things to watch out on these for is suspension arms. I do see a lot of these when it comes to MOT with suspension arm bushes that fail quite prematurely. Usually causes a lot of knocking at the front end, and you obviously can fail the MOT on that. In particular, it's the bushes that go wrong in them, and they are a little bit of a pain to do. Now, I can't remember which one it is, but one of the sides, I think it's passenger side, you have to remove the bumper to change the arm because you can't get access to the bolt to get the arm out. It's only on one side you have to do that, but I think it's passenger side. So when it's that side, it comes a bit of a faff to basically take all the bumper off to get the wishbone arm changed. Now, clutches can be a little bit of a problem on these. I've seen a few of them over the years where the pedal goes to the floor, or it's just not responsive, and it struggles to get into gear. It's usually down to the actual external slave cylinder. It's actually on the outside of the gearbox. It's not too difficult to change. It doesn't involve having to take the gearbox apart or anything like that. But they are very common to go in. They also built into the master cylinder as well, like a one-piece fitting. You end up having to spend about 150 quid to buy this pipe work with the clutch master cylinder and the slave cylinder, external slave cylinder attached. and it can be it'd be a couple hours job for a garage to do it. So always make sure the clutch, make sure it's going into gear nice, make sure there's no issues there, make sure you've got a decent pedal, it should feel nice, it shouldn't be too sloppy or anything like that, so always watch out for clutches on them. Exhaust systems can fail pretty quickly. I've seen these literally 4 or 5 years of age, just because of the nature of the cheapness of the car. The exhaust systems are already corroding and falling off them, so yeah, just be careful on them, guys. Stick your head under and have a quick look. Not the end of the world really if you need to get an exhaust for it, but it's just an added expense, and you do see them corroded a lot, particularly back boxes. Front flexi pipes are a bit flimsy as well, so obviously just check your exhaust system, listen out for any blows or anything like that. And finally, when you're driving it, going on a test drive, always make sure you're listening to the gearbox, you're listening for any whines or anything like that, or any crunching in gears. Can be common for the gearboxes to go in these little 5-speed Fiat 500s, and they're quite expensive to replace. £300–400 for a replacement gearbox, and then obviously you've got your fitting on top of that as well, so it can soon turn into a £700 or £800 job to get a garage to fix it. So always make sure you go down the road properly in it, go for a proper drive in it, and just check it out. Make sure it goes in the gears nicely, make sure as well you're checking that clutch like I said earlier, and just make sure the transmission's just nice and smooth and not got any horrible noises. If you've got one with any noises or anything like that, don't buy it, just walk away from it. There's plenty of them out there. Don't just settle for one, go and find the best one you can for the money you can afford. Now that sounds like there's a lot that goes wrong on the Fiat 500s, but believe me, compared to most other cars out there, that isn't too bad. There's a lot more smaller cars out there that are a lot worse than these little 500s, and to be honest with you, the bits I'm talking about here, with the exception maybe the clutch and gearbox issue, everything else that sort of goes wrong with them, wishbone arms, door handles and anything like that, is pretty cheap to fix as well. One other thing as well, just remember the top of my head, just be careful of the binnacles as well, the actual the dashboard, if you like, the dials. They can go faulty. I've seen a few of these where lights, they can crack at the back and the lights shine through, so you end up it looks like there's warning lights on when there actually isn't, or sometimes the actual binnacle can actually fail completely. Again, it's not the end of the world if they go wrong, but it can be a couple £100 to put right. You have to take it out and send it away to be fixed. So just make sure all the dashboard lights up correctly, make sure all the pixels are working on the screen, and make sure all the warning lights are operating properly and functioning and going out as well. Make sure there's no light staying on. So what do we need to do about this little Fiat? Well, I think it's time to get it in the workshop, get it up in the air and check it over. We need to check over that front end, we need to check over the underneath as well, because obviously we're making sure there's no hidden nasties underneath, because this has been involved in an accident at some point in his life, and he's obviously, I think it has been repaired, guys, because there's no obvious damage, but we'll check that over properly anyway. Obviously we're gonna have a quick look underneath, make sure it's all nice and solid, make sure the suspension's okay, have a look at this noise in the back that's doing my nutting, and then we can get it fixed, and hopefully we can sell it on pretty quickly. And I think it will sell on pretty quickly, guys, as long as we don't need to spend too much on it and we can keep the price nice and competitive. This should sell pretty quick. So let's get this in the workshop, let's turn it around, and hopefully let's try and get some money out of it. Okay, it's been a few days since we've had the little Fiat in the workshop. We've been through it, checked it underneath, so let me just pull over and go through what we need to do to this little Fiat. Right, so I've had the car in the workshop and checked it underneath. What have we found? Well, to be honest with you guys, this one has been a little bit troublesome, to be honest, but we finally got there in the end. So I'll start off with the easy bits first. So we checked it underneath, got it under ramp, and basically first what we want to check out for, to make sure we got no accident damage, no signs of any previous nasties or anything like that, or any bad repairs. And I can gladly say that there was no issues there. Everything's fine. I have no idea where this has been damaged before. Like I said, it's only a Cat N, or we used to call it old Cat D, so it's only going to be light damage, non-structural, so I wasn't really expecting to find anything underneath, to be honest with you. It's going to be sort of light panels, and to be by the looks of it, I think it's been repaired probably years ago. There's nothing too concerned or worried about there, and by the looks of it, it seems to be repaired quite professionally. We did find some damage, albeit a road wheel. So when I was underneath, I did notice that the driver's side wheel, the road wheel itself, the alloy, was really badly damaged, like it's hit a pothole. And it was, I mean, you're allowed a little bit of damage on an alloy wheel, don't get me wrong. We call it sort of minor distortion, but you're not allowed it to be the case where it's badly distorted, and this was horrendous. It was like a 50p piece. Not suitable to, not safe on the car. I'm quite amazed actually that the tyre was still actually on the rim, because it pushed it right on the edge. So it was quite dangerous really, because if you'd hit the pothole again in that same spot, it probably could have took the tyre off the rim. So we needed to get a new wheel ordered for it. I had a look online. Luckily, being a lounge model, it's quite common, so a quick look on there, and for about 80 quid we found a new alloy wheel, and that has arrived, and we've now bolted that onto the car, so that's good news. We've now got that all boxed off. Now to the noise at the back, because that was really the only other issue that we were sort of facing. To be honest with you, at first I thought I'd found the problem straight away. I found that the exhaust system was rattling against the side of the bumper, so I thought maybe that might be the noise. I wasn't 100% convinced because it was a more metallic noise I was hearing, but the exhaust was hitting the bumper, so I thought maybe, you never know, it might be sound different when I'm in the car and echoing or something. And the rubber was obviously quite badly deteriorated. It was all over the place. So we ordered a new set of rubbers for it, £10 for the rubber brackets, and that solid up, and that made the exhaust all nice and solid and got rid of that noise where it was hitting the bumper. But it didn't get rid of the noise I was hearing. I went back out and test drove it again, and that knocking noise at the back end on the passenger side rear was still there. So I checked over I've checked over the car or the suspension, and I couldn't really find much wrong with it, to be honest with you. The shockers are quite common on Fiat 500s for going, the bushes in the shockers, but these weren't too bad. The driver's side one was absolutely fine, and the near side one, or near side rear one, that had a little bit of play in it. I mean, you might have advised it on an MOT, but it wasn't horrendous, and it really shouldn't be causing the noise that I was hearing. So I was a little bit concerned about maybe changing the shocker out. I wasn't sure it was going to sort it or not. I just didn't know really what to do with it. I checked the axle bushes, couldn't find anything wrong with them because they're the only thing really on the back that would cause the noise. The springs weren't broken or anything like that, so it really was a bit of a head scratcher. In the end, back into off the ramp, throwing tools about, eventually checking it again, taking 5 minutes aside and just going back and checking it. I had another go at the axle bush, and for whatever reason, on the first and second go I had to try and pry bar it, I couldn't get it to move. But then when I dropped it back down again, so the weight on it, weight off it, eventually I got it to actually move, and it was moving quite a lot, certainly enough to cause a lot of movement and a knocking noise. And you can imagine as well, with the weight on the car on the road driving down, it'd be rattling all over the place. Anyway, we found it. The axle bush was gone on the near side, so I ordered a new axle bush. I thought, do you know what, if we're going to be taking the axle down anyway, we might as well just throw 2 new shockers on the back, because they are common for going. One of them was a little bit borderline on the advisory, so I thought, you know what, sod it, we've not spent much money on this car, let's throw some rear shockers on it and tidy up that back end. So we did that as well. So I ordered 2 new shockers and a axle bush. Now they actually weren't too expensive, they only cost £60 and a few pence, which I was quite pleased with. And we bolted them on the same day. Wasn't a particularly difficult job. We've now solved that noise, gone. We've now fixed the car, and it drives absolutely superb with no noises, knocks or bangs. We then need to change the oil and filter. That was straightforward enough. A service kit for these was pretty cheap. Remember guys, on these 1.2s, they take 5W40 oil, so pretty old school oil really, to be honest with you, but they do take 5W40. You can put 530 in them, but to be honest with you, 540 is the spec you're supposed to be using in them. But say 15 quid for an oil filter and the grade oil for it. Plugs were okay actually, not been long changed, they were in good order, so we didn't need to bother with them, and just the general fluids and stuff as well, we just topped up. And finally, we had a look at the airbag situation. We scanned it, and that was just a simple issue with a wiring fault behind the horn here, basically what we call a squib. There was a broken wire there and bad connection, so we just repaired that, put it back together. That didn't cost us anything, and now we've solved that airbag fault light, so that's great. It's not come back on since, but obviously we'll keep an eye on that, but cross fingers, that's now resolved that problem. So what have we spent on this little Fiat 500? Well, we paid £1,339 for the car. That includes the purchase price and all the fees from the auction house. We then spent £10 on a rubber mounting for the exhaust. We spent £80 on a road wheel for it, aluminium wheel for the driver's rear, £15 on an oil filter and the grade oil we keep and some basic fluids, and £60 and a few pence for the axle bush and the 2 rear shockers for the rear. So I've managed to keep under the £1,500 target that I was trying to keep to, which I'm pleased about. I might decide to get a key for it, guys. I'm going to have a look at that. I did ring the key man today, but he hasn't got back to me yet. I'm budgeting that maybe we can get a flip key for it. The last one I bought was about 100 quid. To be honest with you, if it just had 2 normal keys like this, I just wouldn't bother. I'd just say, look, that's what it is. But it's only got 1 key. There's not much point paying £70 or £80 for a standard key like this. If we're going to buy another key for the sake of it, we might as well buy another proper flip key. I think it is worth doing, so we're going to have to shove another 100 quid on that potentially. But at the moment, it owes £1,489. What are we likely to get for this car? Well, that is a bit of a contentious issue with it being a previous Cat D. So with it being a Cat D, Cat N, as it's now referred to, non-structural, we are limited about what we can get for this. I can tell you what this probably would be worth if it was HPI clear or didn't have that marker on it. It's probably worth somewhere in the region of about £2,995, £3,000 as a retail car. Does sound a lot of money for an old '08 car, but bear in mind this has only done 68,000 miles, so it actually would be worth that all day long because the mileage would sell it. But obviously with that marker on it, it does going to have an effect on who you sell it to. Now, as a guide, and it is only a guide, most cars that are sort of categorised as a Cat D or N, as a rule of thumb, we usually use 25% roughly as a discount against what it would be if it was HPI clear. Now that doesn't mean that every single car, it completely varies, but it's a fair number to sort of give a guide to what it might be worth. Now on that basis, that would put this car somewhere in the region of around £2,300, which I actually think, really looking online at Auto Trader, is probably where this is at. Now I'm comparing this to other cars, some of that are actually damage repairables themselves, and other cars that are older than around the same age as this, but have got a lot more miles on, and maybe just a bit more boggo specs. And so that's where I'm sort of aiming this car. And there isn't much really around that sort of 2 to 2.5 grand mark, to be honest with you. But where I think this will stand out is that it's not basic. It's a nice colour. It doesn't look boggo basic. It's got decent mileage on it. I just think, to be honest with you, with the spec and everything about it, it will sell better than most of its rivals around it. Now, I know there's some guys out there and some people who just will not entertain it because it's been involved in an accident previously, and they will not buy a Cat D car no matter any circumstances whatsoever. Even if Fiat came, picked this car up, rebuilt it, nut and bolt, and brought it back, they still wouldn't have it even for a fiver because they've just got their ideas and principles that they will not buy a Cat D car. And that's fine. But in reality, you know, that they might be the majority, they might not be the minority, I don't know. But there's always a big market out there for people who want to buy a car like this, who otherwise might not be able to afford it. So for instance, they might not be able to pay £3,000 for a low mileage Fiat 500 this age and spec, but they might be able to pay £2,000 or £2,200, where ultimately I think this might be placed. So there's always a market for this sort of stuff, to be honest with you, and I don't think it's going to struggle to sell. I'm confident that we will sell it, and if we did sell it for around £2,300, where I think we should sort of stick out the rod and try this one, we'll be looking at somewhere in the region of about an £800 profit margin on it. So that's what I'm going to do with this one, guys. I'm going to try it at about £2,300 and see where we go. We can always reduce it if need be, if I've got it wrong, but I think it will sell. I think, to be honest with you, the Cat D side of it won't affect it too much. It drives well, we've got a fresh MOT on it, we've serviced it, we've looked after it, we've done our best for it, and we've done some work to it as well to make it all nice and sound. So hopefully we'll be able to sell it and get it a new owner very, very soon. So let me know your thoughts and comments on this car. Do you think it's too expensive, what I'm asking for it? What's your opinion on the Fiat 500? Let me know your thoughts, guys, and also about the fact that being it categorised as well. Would it stop you from buying it? Do you think I've done the right or the wrong thing? Let me know your comments, guys. I've got lots of videos available, so please check all them out as well. And I'll see you all very, very soon.